Well, good Saturday morning to everybody. We're here again for another Cars and Coffee with me, Kenny Brown, where I try to share real information, not like what you read on the internet. And that's why we started Cars and Coffee a long time ago. It's for you car guys and car gals who want to get real facts and not. Anyway, so the reason I said that is somebody was just talking to earlier was saying something they heard on the internet. And, oh, gosh. So anyway, again, I'm Cars and Kenny. Yeah, I guess Cars and Kenny, you can say that with a little coffee thrown in. Anyway, we've got kind of a cool show for you this morning. We've got a number of things we're going to talk about. I think last week, I can't remember who it was, but someone asked about the positioning of fire suppression nozzles in their car. And we actually, for the Speed Therapy Academy Masterclass last week, we actually had Dan from SPA Fire Systems who gave us the inside, and I'll share some of that with you. And then I think Carrie said someone, maybe Speed Therapy Society, posted something about an article, Ken at the Glen, when we used to do track days at Watkins Glen. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We've got another Transforming Driving Experience workshop coming up. I got two show and tells today. One is ball joints. We're going to talk about ball joints on S197s and why we no longer manufacture the lower control arms for our front grip kit for the 5 to 10 Mustangs. And what we do is we upgrade the 11 to 14 spindles, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Why? Thank you, Carrie. I like that. Hello, everybody. I'm Kenny Brown with another one of my another technical. Anyway, we'll get that. She was downloading on the ball joint thing. I did kind of like a little snippet that we're going to put into the YouTube channel on that. And just in case I have technical difficulties, of course, you know, we never have technical difficulties, that she was going to download it and try to put it up from her computer. But we'll see how it goes. So that'll be coming up. But anyway, you got a little, that's a teaser. I guess we'll call it a teaser. And then we've got some good questions today. Also, if you've got questions, please send them in. I'll try to do my best to answer them. And you just flip pages. We got two really good questions today. And a third question that's going to stem part of my tech talk. So I think what I want to do, I want to talk about fire suppression nozzles. We had a question last week, the best place to put the nozzles. And we got some, we had Dan from SPA, and their main line of business is fire suppression systems. And they're pretty big and they're really good at it. Anyway, I posed that question to him, and he has some interesting answers. He said, first, in the driver's compartment in the cabin, you always want to have the nozzles lower than the driver's chest. Okay, lower than the driver's chest, and sometimes on the floor. You don't want it up any higher because if it could get in the driver's face and eyes, he couldn't see. So you want to keep it low because the fire is going to be low. Also, in the engine compartment, depending on what kind of engine you've got, he said, typically the fire is either going to be on exhaust or the fuel. So a lot of people, if they've got a V8, they'll have two nozzles that point right down either side of the engine. And then we talked about, I mentioned the back, putting one by the fuel cell, and he said they really don't look at putting a nozzle at the fuel cell because the fuel cells are made to take impact and not burst and not leak and not catch on fire. So, you could put one back there, but his main concern was the driver, keeping it low, lower than the driver's chest and the engine compartment, wherever any point of ignition could be. And I think the most interesting thing, though, he was talking about, they're working on a new fire suppressant specifically for lithium batteries. He told me some stuff I didn't know. He said that the lithium battery, when the lithium battery catches on fire, that they're extremely hard to put out. It's almost like magnesium. It burns super hot, and it's just you really can't hardly put it out. So he said they're working on something they're focusing on batteries, because with like the Teslas and hybrid cars with all these batteries, if they catch on fire, it's like really bad news. I guess the fire departments are told, if you've got a Tesla battery fire, you pour at least 30,000 gallons of water onto it to try to cool it down. Tesla says that the batteries, if they catch fire, can burn for up to 24 hours, and they can also reignite, which is something he said that they've seen instances where they've got a battery fire out, and they take it off to the salvage yard, and a few hours later, poof, the thing pumps back on top of fire again. So that was kind of interesting. So if you have a lithium battery, just be aware that if it catches on fire, you're not going to put it out, no matter what. But anyway, that's my little tips we got from Dan from SPA Fire Systems. And then we've got, I think Carrie, was it on in the Society? Did somebody put up a copy of an article?
Yeah, I think it was Omar. Yeah, he's pretty active in the Speed Therapy Society, our private Facebook group. So yeah, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So tell them what you did. You pulled up some articles.
Well, I looked down. I got lots more, but I just didn't have time to go through the boxes and boxes and boxes of like magazine articles. We've been, over the years, I can't tell you how many magazines we've been in. We got like, I'll say thousands of them maybe. So anyway, I found two that were easy to get to, so I brought them in. And I think Omar was saying something about Kenneth to Glen. And so this is an article, February 98, Muscle Mustangs and Fast Fords. And this is one of the events we had at the Glen. We used to, every October, we used to do Kenneth to Glen, Watkins Glen I'm talking about. And it was such a cool event. First of all, that's one of my favorite tracks to drive. Secondly, we got there on probably easily a Thursday night, and the trees were they're still green, and maybe trying to hint that they might do something. And to get to the track is this kind of like valley that we drive down to get to the track from the hotel. And by Sunday night, by the time we leave, the trees were turning orange and yellow, and it was really cool. So anyway, here's an article that was written by Jim Capistano, and you can see we had more than a couple cars. There we go, more than a couple cars. And then we used to do quite a few driving schools with Muscle Mustangs. We partnered with Muscle Mustangs in Track Time, and we always got just really, really super support. Now this is an article from March 87 by Evan Smith, and Evan has been on. You may remember, those that have been around for a while. We've had Evan on Cars and Coffee, and this is going back to school. Jim Capistano was the editor of Muscle Mustangs back then, and after they were all drag racers, and after he went through my school, and I taught him how to drive. He had pretty much every editor, a new editor to Muscle Mustangs. He sent him to me to teach him how to drive. And Evan was one of my best students. And this article was written by him back to school. Again, you can see we had more than a couple cars. You can kind of see what era it is. A lot of SN95 cars there. So yeah, this was 1997. So a lot of people asking, are we going to do driving events again? The answer is yes, but I just can't say when. We've got so many projects going on right now. It's just time. There's just not enough bandwidth, enough time. Because putting one of these events on, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of people, a lot of time, a lot of effort to put one of these events on, and we just cannot. We couldn't squeeze in this year. I'm not sure if we can squeeze in next year or not. But anyway, if we do.
Oh yes, we're going to squeeze one in next year, Kenny. We are definitely going to squeeze one in.
Where's that voice coming from?
You know what you forgot to mention about the schools is that the Golden Cone Award. We used to have a banquet.
Yeah.
With all the media and with all the attendees, and we gave away awards, Kenny.
We'd have the Saturday school, then Saturday night we'd have a banquet, and then Sunday we'd finish off the school. And at the banquet, we always presented the Golden Cone Award, which was basically, it was a really old, chewed up cone. And it was presented to the person that produced the most memorable event of the day. And it, it was, you had to do something pretty darn unique, I'll put it that way, to win the Golden Cone Award. But that was always pretty popular.
Yeah,
So,
it was always some kind of an off-track excursion or a spin or something. And I think both, did Campy earn one? I know that Jim Camposano did. It was pretty interesting that a lot of the editors that would go through would earn them, and the driving participants weren't, because they would know how to drive a little bit better. So it was interesting. Also, we had another award that went to the instructors. It was the
the
Shit Award.
The Oh Shit Award, which they would get a roll of toilet paper for the instructor that experienced the most puckering event with a driver during the day. I forgot about that one.
Yeah. So yeah, it was. They were so much fun. What Kenny did during the event is he would do a number of tech sessions during breaks and during lunch, and he also we had a team of pit crew people. Kelvin, you probably remember this, and Brad. But we'd have people take tire temperatures, and then Kenny would read them and teach you how to set your car up at the track while you're there. It's a very cost-effective way to set your car up on the track to drive better. So that was always fun.
Yeah, so there's our blast from the past for today. And we've got, going down my little list here, as you know, that I can't get by without my list that Carrie gives me. Even though she's not here, I still have a list. Transform Your Driving Experience Workshop is coming up. Is August 23rd to 26th. So mark your calendars. That's 7 o'clock in the evening. And is this going to be on Zoom, Carrie?
Yeah, so you need to register for the event, and in the comments there'll be a registration link also on our website and also on both our Facebook pages, Kenny Brown Performance and the Kenny Brown Speed Therapy Society Facebook group. But yes, it's going to be on Zoom, and we're also going to stream it to our Speed Therapy Society Facebook group. So it'll be on both. A lot of people are not into Facebook right now, so that's why we're doing it on Zoom. Plus, Zoom is a better way to communicate with you, ask questions.
Yeah, so there you go. Mark your calendars. It's 4 nights, right?
That's correct. Do you know what's going to be involved?
I forgot my list.
Okay. We'll let you pass this time, but he's going to cover
next week. I'll remember my list.
Okay, it's worth it. It's backed by popular demand, so he's going to cover a lot about the 5 performance platforms that you have to do to your car in order to have it perform better and transform your driving experience. He offers a lot of tips on planning, and also goes into detail on how to set your car up and things like that. It's for both street cars and for track cars. So anybody is welcome.
Yep. So that's coming up. And then again, by popular demand, we have another Speed Therapy Academy starting September 13th. And Carrie's got some early bird specials. Anybody that's ever been through the Academy, it's a 15-week course. And I pretty much take a deep dive. Everything I talk about in Cars and Coffee, I go into much, much more detail over the course of the 15 weeks. And it's when the whole object is when people come out of that, they've got a great understanding of the entire car, how it works, how to make it work, how to adjust it, how to set it up, how to drive it. So that's there's a lot packed into not a lot of time. So if you need more information, you can contact Carrie. So let's see.
Or it's on our website, Kenny. Information's on our website as well.
See, they never tell me any of this stuff. I have to find it out just when you do. So, okay, I think let's go to ball joints. Now, what I did is we were updating a 2008 Roush Mustang with front grip kit. And like I said, we don't do the 5 to 10 ball control arms anymore. And so we put a little video together that's going to be in our YouTube channel. And if everything works, I need to check that box. Check that box. Okay, fingers crossed. Here we go. Hello, everybody. I'm Kenny Brown with another one of my little tech nuggets. Now, a lot of people are asking why we no longer manufacture lower control arms in the front grip kit for the 5 to 10 Mustangs. And the answer is pretty simple. All it has to do with ball joints. This is the ball joint of the 5 to 10 Mustang, and you can see it's an 18mm shaft, and there's a groove all the way around for the clevis bolt. So this has proved problematic in the past because this is a weak spot right here. In 2011, they went to a 19mm shaft, which you can see is beefier. But also, I'll turn this a little bit, you can see there's just a little bitty nick in there for the clevis bolt that goes further. And it's easy to position it. You just put a wrench on here and twist it around. This way you've got just a teeny little slit. There's no weak point, and it's a much stronger shaft. So anytime we build a 510 Mustang, we always upgrade to 11 to 14 spindles. Now we've got a couple of different salvage yards that we talk to, and we can get them from there. We rebuild them and put them in. Now this is one that's going to go in 2008 Roush Mustang that we're totally upgrading full Kenny Brown suspension and front grip kit. And of course, it's going to 19mm ball joints. So in this one, also what we've done is a brand new bearing pack along with the long ARP wheel studs. That's going to be a track bar. I think you can see all the little bitty dabs of NECs on there. And that's specifically because if you're taking the wheels on and off, I mean, you're threading down the lug nuts on and off, you got metal on metal. And after a while, they're going to start chewing on each other, and one of them is going to fail. So by putting a little NICs on there, or even a couple drops of thick oil, you're lubricating the threads. First of all, you're going to get a better torque value. You don't have to torque as high. And secondly, the studs and the lug nuts are going to last longer. A couple other little things. I don't know if you can see in the dust cap on there, the little hole. Now, we started back when racing the Fox cars, and we kept losing dust caps. And when the brakes got hot, when the calipers and the rotors got hot, what would happen is the little dust cap would blow off. So back then, we started putting we'll drill either an 1/8 or 3/16 hole in the dust cap just to relieve the pressure when it gets hot. And the 197, there's already a hole in there. You just have to scrape it off. Just one of those little things to keep the heat from building up and the pressure inside of the wheel bearing, and that can make the wheel bearings last longer. So there you have it. If you're building a 5 to 10 Mustang, really consider that upgrading to the 19mm ball joints to 11 to 14 Mustangs. Like I say, you can pick the spindles up in salvage yards, and there's virtually no difference between the 5 to 10 and 11 to 14 other than the bigger ball joint. So that's my little tech nugget for today. Okay, did it work? Nobody's talking to me. Carrie, did it work? She's still not talking to me, but I see her picture.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Mine was a little muddled, so what we'll do is we will replay that on Kenny's Speed Therapy Society Facebook page, group. Later today, we'll have Brad load that up because it's pretty interesting information, especially if you have a SN95 car.
Okay. S197 car, Carrie. You said SN95.
I guess I did. Sorry.
So the thing that I did forget to mention is, the reason for this is when we had a company manufacture these for us way back when, because it has an extended shaft. Extended shaft. The reason we do an extended shaft is when you lower a Mustang, the roll center, the front part of the car, once it roll around, goes below ground, which is one of the reasons the cars have such a bad push to them. And when you extend the shaft, all of a sudden you're putting more load in the center. And, you know, Ford found the same thing. That's why they went to the 19-inch shaft, because it's just so much stronger. So anyway, that's why we don't do the 5 to 10s anymore. It just, why put something on there that isn't going to be the best? So that was my little tech piece, or show and tell and tech on ball joints. I got another little thing just to show you this morning. Is we had somebody send in a question to Carrie. They wanted to know about oil separators and if they're good or if not. Well, I can tell you, if you've got a modular or a Coyote motor, there you go. You've got a Coyote motor, you absolutely have to have an oil separator. So what is an oil separator? It separates oil. It separates oil from air. And where it goes, and this has got hoses plug onto here, and basically it goes between the breather on the passenger side and the engine. It's like, if you're only going to put one on, put it on the passenger side. That's the side that seems to puke the most oil out of the breather. And it will keep oil out of the engine and oil out of the intake. And what it does is, it's kind of like, it's got this little container down here. It unscrews. You mount it like this, and you unscrew it. After you first put it on, you want to check and see how much oil is in there about every day. And then you can, after a couple of days, you can figure out how often you have to empty it. But what it does is, as the oil comes through, it gets trapped in the bottom. There's a filter that goes, this is where the oil would come in, and this is where it would go into the intake. And it traps the oil and keeps it from not going into the motor. Yeah, if you've got a Coyote especially, that's when we first started using them the most, was on Coyotes. And the passenger side would inevitably put oil into the intake. So this is, we've got them. I don't think they're on our website. We probably should get them on our website, but this is something that you really, really need. And any modular motor. This is actually going to go on a 4-valve, a 99 4-valve, 4.6 4-valve. Okay, that takes care of, we're just kind of moving right along here. Remember, send your questions in if you have any questions, and I'll do the best I can to answer them. Ball joints, speed therapy. Oh, questions. Speaking of questions, I forgot about it. We have a couple of really good questions this morning. Okay, first question is from James. Says, I would like to hear my input on 18 versus 19-inch track wheels on S197. Less rotating mass, cost of tires, and selection of tires seems to point to 18-inch, but he'd like to hear my take on it. Now, here's my, my preference is we use 18-inch wheels for race tires, because just about every series mandates an 18-inch wheel, and there's a lot of 18-inch race tires. So for racing, we use 18s. For street and track days, I like 19s. There's a lot of good tires in like good track tires in 19s. And the thing about the difference between 18 and 19, let's say that, and we're only looking at anything tires between a 285 and a 305, sometimes a 315. So in that grouping, there's a really great selection of tires in 19. And if you were to take, for example, let's say a 285 30 18 and a 285 30 19. The 285 30 19 will actually be about a 1 inch taller tire. And I like tall tires on Mustangs. It just, for the weight of the car, it just makes more sense to have a tall tire, especially for forward bite. That's, you look at drag cars, they got huge tall tires. Well, we don't want to go that extreme. But I like 19s. Typically, our typical setup for a 197 is a 19 by 10 front, 19 by 11 rear. And if it's just like a V6 or an EcoBoost, that doesn't have a huge power, we go 10 inch all the way around in 285 35. That's a really nice tire to do a square setup. And when they're square like that, you can rotate them, which is always handy. But for anything that's got like 500 horsepower plus, I like to go a 19 by 10 front and 19 by 11 rear with a 285 35 front and a 305 30 in the back. That's kind of like my favorite combination. Now, we have on some cars gone bigger on both ends, just depending on the car, but that more has to do with the special build that we're doing. So, I mean, that's my take. Either one's fine. The other thing about 19s is you got more air between the brakes and the wheel. Oh, and my 20-inch wheels are for show. That's the way I looked at it. 18 for race, 19 for street and track, and 20 for show. So that's how I look. I mean, either one's fine. I mean, if you're more comfortable with 18-inch, go with 18-inch. It's fine.
So Kenny, what happens if somebody is just joining us right now?
Well, that means I didn't look on my page where it says, if you're just joining us, I'm Kenny Brown, and this is Cars and Coffee, where I try to share some of my massive experience from professional motorsports and building, early top of the line high performance street and track cars, and also championship winning race cars. So that's the questions that we had sent in. And then if you got any more questions, send them in. I'm trying to see what we have left on my list. Oh, there's another question. Rodney, this is a really good question. Panhard bar, when you adjust it, do you set it side to side, or do you center your axle or do you center your axle so everything is in line? Well, actually, to me, those both the same thing. But here's the easiest way to adjust your Panhard bar. Now, what you want is that axle centered in the car. And with a double adjustable Panhard bar, you can actually move it back and forth. You really don't move the axle. You move the car on top of the axle. So the easiest way to do it is to get like a great big long carpenter square. And I'll put this up against the lip of the fender. And then I'll get it. Let's say the fender's over here. I'll get it, or over here, either way. I'll get it so it's level. And then I'll measure the distance between the level and the tire. And check one side, and then check the other side. And if one side has more distance, then you want to shift the axle the other way. So let's say the passenger side has less distance than the driver's side, and you want to lengthen the Panhard bar and shift it. So you keep doing that back and forth until you get the measurement on both sides the same. And also, it has to be on the ground at ride height, or like on blocks or something, because you can't do it when it's up in the air. It has to be at the regular ride height you're running at. So that's the other way to do it, which is I'm not quite as fond of, because you have to wait for it to stop moving. But you can take a piece of string and tie a bolt or some washers onto it, tape it to the fender, let it hang down, and use that to measure. Either way is fine, but you want to just work it until you get that car the same distance from the edge of the car to the tires on both sides. So, okay, that's the Panhard bar. We're moving right along today. Now we got everything done. Fire suppressant, Kenneth Glen, workshop, ball joints, questions from the society, and I forgot what's on the front page. YouTube, you guys watching on YouTube, you need to do a hat trick. You hit the like button, the subscribe, and the little bell. And then if you're on Facebook, like and share with your friends. I mean, the more people we have in the group, the better it gets. And if you're not a member of the private Facebook group, Speed Therapy Society, please join. I think you're going to find some really good people in there. A lot of information is shared. So I think I've got pretty much through everything today, Carrie. What have we got? Have we got any questions that came in?
Yes, we do have questions, and let me get to them. I also found some information on the Transform Your Driving Experience workshop. I know we were both fumbling on that. So the first day is the first critical steps to maximizing your driving experience. Day 2, Kenny's going to be going over building your performance platform. Day 4 is dialing in your car for maximum performance. And day 4 is refining your driving techniques and track prep tips. So it's a really good session. People love it. Let me get to some of these questions here. We have some good ones, Kenny. Let's see. Herstifer Here's our first one here. Question: do the Coyotes need oil balancing lines between the two cylinders?
You know, I kind of heard of that, but we've never done it. It's something that I think I'd be more apt to, full on race car. But I mean, it's something we've never done in our Coyote motors, and we've never had a problem. So, I don't have a good answer other than we've never done it. But I have heard of people doing it. Yeah.
Oops. Here we go. Next one. Hey, Kenny, we finally got the trailer. Went with the Open Homes Dynamite. So that's great.
Cool.
Rick Spada. And then we have Kobe. Can you vent to air instead of using a catch can?
Well, yes and no. On the newer cars that you're using air, you're using mass air to measure all the air. I mean, the system is sealed, and if you interrupt that, then you could throw up your calibration. I know, like on the race cars, what they'll do is they'll, rather than having it go back like a little can like this and going back in the intake, then what they'll do, they'll actually mount like a much bigger can on the firewall with a vent on top. But in that case, the entire engine is calibrated around that system. So I mean, to keep it easy, just use one of these, stick it between the valve, the passenger valve cover, and your intake, and that'll be fine.
Okay, ready for the next one? I'm not.
Well, going back on that, venting the air. I mean, back when I was doing Windsor motors, like overhead valve motors, we always would have, on top of the valve covers, we'd always have a breather. And for race cars, we'd actually stack it up like 3 or 4 inches so we didn't lose oil out of it. So that's the old days.
Okay, Greg Drake has a question. He's Kobe. He said, Kobe, I get about 2 to 4 tablespoons of oil after each race weekend.
There you go. That's 2 to 4 tablespoons that would otherwise go into your engine and start gumming things up. So there's a real life experience answer for having a catch, an oil catch.
And so if anybody has any questions, this is sort of last call to get questions. We have a few more left, but if you have any questions, please add them now. Here we go. If you don't have a fuel cell, do you want fire suppression nozzles aimed at the saddle tanks on an S197?
I would say possibly. The thing is, the saddle tank is in the middle of the car. It's in a really secure location. You'd have to take a pretty good wallop to get to that saddle tank. I mean, the thing is, maybe what's more vulnerable would be the fill neck to the saddle tank. But the other thing too that Dan talked about is like whichever fuel system or fire suppression system you get, there should be instructions from the manufacturer on where and how to position the nozzles. He also talked about the mechanical, where actually pull a lever, and the electric type, which you push a button. So yeah, I would just check. I mean, check with your manufacturer. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, where do you feel you'd want fire suppression in the case of a bad incident? Saddle tanks. That's why, like in NASA, they don't require a fuel cell for like American Iron, Mustang. The saddle tank's in the middle. I mean, you got to get pretty hard to rupture that saddle tank. So yeah. If you're more comfortable doing that, do it. And the other thing we talked about is bigger is always better. If they say the minimum you can have is a 5-pound system, then you want to get a 10. And you can't have too much fire suppressant. I mean, you don't need it until you need it. So, okay. What's next?
Okay, so we have more questions. And if you're really interested in like the fire suppressant system, the Speed Therapy Academy, every other week for 16 weeks, we have we invite an expert to teach a master class. So it's just wonderful. One was fire suppressants. This week we've had wheels and tires. I mean, just a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, we've had safety, plumbing, cooling, driving. There's a bunch
Yeah.
more thrown in there, but
Yeah.
I know a lot of people in the industry, so I try to tap into my friends and have them come on and do like maybe 20 minutes to talk about their area of expertise, and then because it's in Zoom, then our guys can ask them questions. So that's kind of like one of the most favorite parts of the academy I found out recently. So, okay, I have the next question.
Okay, my computer screen just ships. Here we go. Roy Wallace has a question, and Roy, I'm just going to let you know before Kenny answers your question that we are going to replay the section on the ball joints in the Speed Therapy Society Facebook group. It will just be posted there. And another way, if you ever miss out on anything, is you can all the Cars and Coffee episodes are played in Facebook, and they're also archived on the Kenny Brown Performance TV YouTube channel. So you can always go there, and you can also binge watch there when your wife is gone. Here we go. Roy Wallace. He's missed the ball joint combo. Do you recommend longer ball joints on a 9904 to help roll center when must use stock K-frame?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it kind of leads me back to the origin of extended ball joints on Mustangs. We were the first to do extended ball joints on Mustangs, all the way back when we did the upgrade. Actually, before we did the upgrade in 2001 with the all-new K-member and everything. We've been using them for a while. The problem was back then, the only extended ball joints, longer shaft ball joints that we could find were for an ASA race car, stock car. So, and that was for a GM. So we actually had to get those ball joints and have a little taper kind of like sleeve on there to help them fit on the Mustang, or we'd have to get a reamer and ream them out. But the reason you use an extended ball joint is when you lower the Mustang in the front, what happens is the roll center dives down. Now in the academy, we go pretty extensively into geometry and exactly what happens in suspension geometry when you lower a car and how you calculate the roll center. So by extending the ball joint, it actually brings the roll center up, which helps a lot in the front. Now, one of the issues that Mustangs have is that when you lower the car, the front low center is real low, like below ground. And that's 197, where the Panhard bar crosses the center line in the back is the roll center. It's up high. It's at the center of the diff. And you've got that big angle from the back to the front. So when you go around the corner, the car is rolling on those 2 points. And what it's doing is it's rolling a lot of weight on that front outside tire, which is why a lot of times when you get the car in a stock suspension, you get the car turned, start going into the corner, and the front starts pushing out. You have to get all this understeer. You have to wait for it to catch before you get back to the gas. So by bringing the front roll center up, we probably should do a thing on the AGS 4.0 suspension again sometime. But what I do in my suspension, my 197 suspension only has 3 parts: rear grip kit, front grip kit, and springs and shocks. But in the front grip kit, we bring the roll center up. The rear grip kit, we bring the rear roll center down. So instead of an angle like this, it's almost flat, which has an amazing impact on how Mustang goes through the corners. It doesn't roll up hard on that outside tire. It stays more flat in the middle of the corner, which means that you don't have to wait as long to get back to the gas. And going around the corner of the Mustang with a live axle with roll center high, I mean, you can feel that inside tire getting light, and you've got to just feather the gas, because if you get to the gas too soon, you overload the outside tire, and all of a sudden the back of the car is going down in front of the car. So by doing what we do with the roll centers and all the other geometry, is that the car doesn't want to roll up, which means you don't have to wait as long for the axle to settle, which means you get to the gas sooner. So I'm typically on the gas well before the apex, and I'm like pushing hard. By the time I get to the apex, I've got most of the throttle in, so I get great launch off the corner. And it's good lap times and speed. It boils down to one thing: corner exit speed. The higher your corner exit speed, the higher your terminal speed before the next corner. So in everything I teach in the academy and in the workshops, it's all about corner exit speed, getting that jump off the corner. So if the car doesn't roll as much, and you can get to the gas sooner, if you got more speed at mid-corner, you got a lot more speed at corner exit, you're going to pass people down the straightaway. Now, on that's a 197. On an SN95 and Fox, it's kind of like a worse scenario. The roll center goes down in the front, but the rear roll center, if you do the math, and we do that in the academy, you do the math, the rear roll center is like, I can't remember, 17, 18 inches high in the back. So it's like your angles like this. So that's why it wants to lift up in the back and push the nose to a corner. So, but getting back to your question, yeah, I mean, we can get you extended shaft ball joints that OE replacement, you just press them in. So, I mean, if you need some, obviously we have them in our SN95 front grip kit. But if you just want to put some in the control arms you have, you'll give us a call. We'll get you a set of extended shaft ball joints. Okay. That ended up being a pretty big answer.
It sure did. It was interesting. Okay, Kenny, just to let you know too, the oil separators are listed on our website. So, okay. And then we have a question which kind of leads from your other question when you're talking about S197. Will some of the parts from the AGS4 work with the new 4.5 system?
The answer is yes. In the 4.5, the only thing that's different is the roll center relocation kit. The Panhard bar comes off and the K-link goes on. Otherwise, everything else is exactly the same. I will say though, we ran into a situation on a couple of cars that have early 4.0 suspensions that don't have the newest like axle brackets, and the K-link brackets are designed to work with our newer axle brackets, so the spacing's right when you bolt everything up. So yeah, the only thing that's different is you take the Panhard bar off and put the K-link on, and you have to increase rear spring rate by a lot because the K-link creates so much rear grip that if we didn't go up on rear spring rate, the back would be pushing the nose all over the place, and you never get around the corner. You turn in really good, and then all of a sudden the front would just wash out. So we actually spring the 4.5 suspension just like we do an IRS car, with pretty close to the same spring rate front and rear, which is not really heard of. And most of the time for a live axle car, we're like around 40% less spring rate in the back than the front. So, yep.
Okay, so for those of those that don't know what the 4.5 system is, can you explain that just a little bit more, what's included in the AGS4 and what's in the 4.5?
Well, that almost sounds like a workshop.
Yeah, it does. Well, I guess and the workshop is coming up. If you're interested in learning more about the K-link and the 4.5 system, add your name to the comments and we'll put you on the invite list. It's going to be just a very small group of people will be inviting to that workshop on the Kenny's latest suspension. So do you want to add anything, Kenny? Yeah,
it's the latest suspension I've been working on for 20 years. And that's the truth. In essence, like I say, my suspension is a front grip kit and rear grip kit. Now the rear grip kit, one, let's call it, is the axle brackets only have one hole in it, and the upper control arm module. It's a module because the control arm's longer than factory, and the pickup point's been relocated. And between the axle bracket and the upper module, I adjust the instant center exactly where over the years I like it the best on Mustangs, and that's what gives you your anti-squat, which gives you bite off a corner. It also creates anti-lift, which keeps the back of the car down under hard braking. And then we've got the double adjustable lower control arms, which will go on both. And if you look from the top on a Mustang, the rear control arms are splayed out at the front. And without getting too deep, you draw from plan view, you draw the line of convergence, draw that line to the roll center, and you got a roll axis that's pointing the wrong way. If we make them parallel, we have offset bushings with the double adjustable control and make them parallel, then the point of conversion is infinity, which means the roll axis will be parallel to the lower control arms. So that's kind of like that part of it. Every single piece of any of my suspensions, every single piece is engineered to have a positive impact on suspension geometry and work with every other piece that's in that system. So, I mean, the axle bracket and the upper control arm work together for the instant center. The offset bushings for the control arms help the roll axis. We bring the Panhard bar from the middle of the axle down to the bottom of the differential. which that's where the car wants to roll around. So that's why it just works so good. Plus, it's simple, it's light. It doesn't weigh hardly anything compared to, like, we talked about last week. We talked about torque arms, big heavy chunks of mass that you add the axle, which means unsprung mass, which means it makes the axle move slower. Anyway, and the only difference is 4.5 is new K-Link. K-Link is something I've been working on for a lot of years. An amazing amount of effort, energy, engineering, and testing and developing went into it. In fact, we had 2 years of hard track testing in racing. And there's two big advantages to the K-Link. Number one, it separates axle roll and body roll, which means that no matter how much the car rolls, the axle is planted on the pavement and doesn't move. You get the same amount of weight pushing on the tires at all times. I mean, body can roll as much as it wants, but you get all the same weight that's pushing on the tires, which means, remember I said earlier, you have to wait to get to the gas going through the corner. Well, if the axle isn't off balance, the axle settled, you can get to the gas pretty much right away. And the other thing it does, it has a magical effect on lowering the roll center below the bottom of the differential, which up until this was pretty much unheard of, because the lowest you could get the roll center, in theory, was the bottom of the differential, either by moving the panic bar down, because where the panic bar crosses the center line of the car is the roll center, or with the Watts link, and where the pin is on the bell crank, that's the roll center. The problem with Watts link is you cannot get them all the way down to the bottom of the differential. So that's why I went with the panic bar. With K-Link, we lower it a lot, which really makes the cars drive like you can't believe. We have some of our people that have them on their cars, and you put some new pieces on. A lot of people, maybe you might pick up some tenths of a second or maybe a second or two. Our guys are picking up chunks of seconds. I think Steve's, I can't remember exactly, but something like from his standard Boss Laguna Seca suspension to the AGS 4.0, gained something like 4 seconds, and when we put 4.5 on, he gained another 4 seconds. David out in the West Coast with a Boss 302S with the standard Ford Racing Boss 302S suspension. He put the entire 4.5 system on with the good JRZs, the double adjustable remote canister, and at I don't know what it's called now, but Sears. I know it was Sears Point, the track out in California. He took 8 seconds off his best time, and then we talked that night, and I had to make a couple of shock adjustments, and he took another 2 seconds off his time from the previous day. So, I mean, this thing works like crazy, and it's a complex piece. There's a lot of parts to it. It takes a lot to manufacture, and unfortunately, we just found out a lot of material costs are going up, which is something we're being plagued with right now. But we were only doing them because of the complexity of it, and it's such a special piece. We're only building them in small lots. That's Kurt over there working on a car. We're like way behind. We need to get this car done so we can go to a Roush event next weekend. So anyway, normally we wouldn't be here. What was I saying? I was talking about I forgot.
I wasn't listening to you, Kenny, so I can't help you out. So.
Oh, yes, talking about the K-Link. We build them in small batches. We've done 2 batches, and now we're ready for the third. So there's going to be a workshop on that. So I mean, if you're interested in the ultimate Mustang suspension, register for it, because if you see it, you'll be blown away. Everybody, when they get it, the comment we get, this looks like a work of art. It's almost too pretty to put on a car. And it's a pretty cool piece. And like I say, it's got a lot of time, engineering, and development into it, and testing. That's why we applied for a patent, because so much of my stuff is copied in the aftermarket that I got too much invested in this, and it works too good to have somebody rip it off.
So Paul Dondero is another one of the K-Link people. He says the change is stunning with the K-Link. So it's pretty cool. We will be having another workshop. I'm trying to get it worked in next month. So you'll hear more about that in another week or so. Also, APL Custom said he thanks you for the information. His name is Jeff, by the way, and he loves your show. And that's who asked the 4.5 question. We also have, I think this is very interesting, and everybody that's interested or lives around the Oklahoma area, this would be a great event to go to. Chuck Foley is involved in this, and it's called the Great Mustang Roundup. It's hosted by Oklahoma Mustang Club in Mustang, Oklahoma. That's cool. September 3rd through the 5th. And the website is greatmustangroundup.com. So again, that's September 3rd and 5th is coming up. I think that's Labor Day weekend, so that would be a great weekend to show up for that. Again, it's greatmustangroundup.com. So it's a wonderful event. Heard a few people talk about it.
Yeah, we could probably post that on Facebook and also in the society.
Yeah, Brad, you got that? Can you post that up on Facebook for us, please, on both Facebook pages? And we have a question. I'm going to go back here. Joe Johnson has a question. You also need a handheld fire extinguisher in your car because you go off track and set grass on fire. He says he's seen a car completely burned to the ground due to this. That's a really good comment.
That's a great point, Joe. And that's something that Joe is a alumni of the Academy and a devotee. I mean, he never misses a one. But yeah, that's what we talked about is that also having, if you've got a full-on suppression system, having like a handheld fire extinguisher, just for that case. And I've seen it too. Cars, spin off or go off track. The motor dies, you have to pull off track, and there's dry grass, and the heat from underneath the car sets the grass on fire. And if the car isn't mobile, and you got grass burning underneath, I mean, that's not a good thing. So yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, Joe. That's something we did talk about in the master class with Dan about having that handheld so you can just, shoot under there and put the grass fire out. Because little fires can lead to big fires if not controlled. So, okay, we have another one, Carrie.
Yes, here's one. And again, this is the very last call for questions. Hey, Kenny, we were almost finished with the show at 10:30. And now I think we're going to make our hour-long show. We have so many questions today. So here we go. Kobe Ward, does anyone make larger capacity saddle tanks for the S197?
Not that I'm aware of. Typically, if you need a bigger tank, then the only way to go is with a fuel cell. But that's a pretty major adjustment because you really have to cut out the back of the car, build a frame, and then set because you want the fuel cell down as low as it'll go. But I think the Mustang has, I can't remember, maybe 16-gallon tank, 15-gallon tank, something like that. And if you're doing endurance racing, you might run, it might not be a very long stint. You can get fuel cells in 17, 22 gallons if you need a lot of capacity. So that's I don't know of anybody that makes a larger capacity saddle tank unless somebody makes one custom. But yeah, the next step from that is a fuel cell. And if you really need some guidance on a fuel cell, give me a call. I can kind of talk you through and set you up with people that can give you the fuel cell you need. Okay.
So and how you can schedule a call with Kenny is he does 15-minute consults, free consults. So Brad will post a link in the comments, and you just click on that and look at his schedule and see what's convenient for you and have a 15-minute chat with him on any questions you have or if you want to work on a build plan. Brad mentioned Brad mentioned that the SPA Technique offers a great handheld fire extinguisher. So that's another thing. So, and they're
SPA Technique is the official name of the company. It's actually a UK company. So they're pretty much world renowned in fire suppression systems, and they certify their systems with both FIA and the SFI with the US. FIA is international, SFI is the US. Their systems are all certified.
Okay, another thing is, Brad, I'm going to have you look up this and then add the link. I'm going to be talking about this, so if you can add the link, this is kind of impromptu. It is cruiseindy.com, Brad, cruiseindy. Kenny's been invited to attend a local car event. Kenny, do you want to tell him a little bit more about it? Because it's pretty unique.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. It's one of Carrie's doctors, back doctors. He's a real car guy, and he's from Detroit originally. So he knows all about the Woodward cruise. And he's putting together, he did it last year, and it's going to be here this year. And it starts in the morning with a car show. This is up in North Carmel. And then there's a cruise. It's kind of like a cruise around. I don't know how many miles it is, but it's kind of like a laid out path. And then there's an after party afterwards, and it's supposed to be entertainment and all that sort of stuff. So we're actually, we're originally planning on broadcasting live from there, but Carrie's back's been acting up. So I told Kevin that we weren't sure if we're going to be able to make it, and he's just begging us to be there. So we're going to do what we can. We'll just see how Carrie's back is. And what's the weekend? September 18th?
It's September 18th, Saturday, September 18th, and we will be there somehow. And Kenny is going to be doing Cars and Coffee live from there. And this will be our first outdoor live show, not in a studio. So if you know our history about technical issues, that may be just a good one to sit in and have a chuckle or two.
Yeah, it'll be a couple YouTube moments, us dealing with technology.
And also, if you'd like to attend, Brad has already added the link for it. You can read a little bit more about it. We'd love to get as many Mustangs there as we can. And who knows, if you're there, maybe Kenny will interview you on the show. So if you want any more information than what they're offering, just get a hold of us and we'll talk to you about it.
I just talked to Mike last night, who is going to make an effort to get the 86 Celine R Mustang that won the 24 Hours of Canada. That is the car that really launched the whole Celine phenomena, because it was the first win for Mustang in pro endurance racing, first win for General Tire, and that kind of really set the stage. And I know a lot of you know, but those that don't, I actually started the Celine race program for Steve in '86, and I told him that if we had like the resources, that I'd try to win him a championship within 3 years. Well, as luck would have it, in the first year in '86, we won the 24 Hours of Canada with the backup car that was seriously wounded. It was wounded in I can't remember if it was practice or qualifying. We had like the race in hand, the leading car, and it got crashed out at 4 a.m. There was no way to repair it, so we had to put all our attention into the second car, which was, I can't remember. I mean, it's along like third or fourth or something at the time, and we just focused on that car, just one car, and we brought that through the field and won the race with it, which was pretty cool, because that's that was like the big thing that really launched the Celine. And then in '87. Because there was so many problems with 86 cars, I gave Steve a list. This is what I need if you want to win races with the car. And he went to work, and we met with the Ford people and other suppliers, and it pretty much got everything I asked for the 87 cars. So when it came to 87, I told him I'd try to win one championship in 3 years. Well, in 2 years we won four national championships, which was pretty outstanding. So. That's where all my Mustang comes from. Before that, I was like real race cars, and it took me a while to figure out the Mustangs, because I was kind of like a racing snob back then. Open wheel cars and prototype cars. It's like real race cars don't have doors. Well, it took me a while to figure out how to make it work. And once I did, I did a pretty good job of it. So that's how I got going in Mustangs. I kind of got under a long dissertation.
So anyway, just back to the Cruise Indy. What Kevin's trying to do with this, he's obviously raising money for charity, but he's really trying to have like a mini Woodward Dream Cruise. So that's sort of what it is. So there's a car show and a cruise, and then the after party is supposed to be great. There's food trucks there, music, and it should be just a really fun day. So again, if you're in the area, or if you want to come out, Kenny will be broadcasting Cars and Coffee live on September 18th. And we have a couple more questions, Kenny. We are going to make it till noon. Here's Leo. What a cute little girl. What is the range and roll stiffness adjustment for the SN95 adjustable front bar versus the eibach front bar?
I don't have an answer. If I don't have an answer, I'm not going to BS. I just know that, when we developed our sway bar for the SN95, it went we did it in 2001 when it did the whole brand new AGS 3.0. AGS, we're talking AGS 4.0 and 4.5. AGS stands for Advanced Geometry Suspension Systems. And the DNA on AGS goes all the way back to the 87 Saline season, where it's another story that we messed with geometry and actually made the cars turn. And when we did a whole brand new K member in the IRS in 2000, that's when we developed the sway bar. And we didn't compare it to anything. We had 3 different thicknesses of sway bar, and they're made out of chromoly. And we tested all 3, and we ended up with, the one that was in the middle was absolutely by far the best. So we didn't make any. We stopped offering the medium, soft, and hard, and just went with the medium one. So I can't. And we did some calculations, but this is like 2000, and just I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, it's like it works pretty good, at least with our suspension and our geometry on our suspension. So, and they look cool.
We have one comment here, and this will be the last comment, and I don't see any other questions, Kenny. So here we go. See, small tank can go in the spare tire well, but you have to merge the 2 tanks.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, you can get. I forgot all about that. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
You're a smart audience.
Yeah, I like it when people help me. Yeah, some of the fuel cell people have a spare tire cell that drops right in where the spare tire is. But what you have to do is you've got to plumb them together so that the one in the spare tire feeds the main cell. And I can't remember how many gallons it is, but certainly we can. We might put a link. Let me check and see if I can get a link to that, and we'll stick that up on Facebook and the society.
So again, what link do you want, Ken? I'll make a note.
I need to get the link for the spare tire extra fuel cell.
Okay. And that reminds me, if you, we have a lot of people that watch after the live show. If you have any questions while Kenny, you're listening to the replay, just add them to the comments, and we will be able to get back to you. Kenny will be able to answer that for you. Either we'll get back to you in the chat, or else we will answer on the next Cars and Coffee. So feel free to add comments or in the chat if you have any questions.
Or subjects. If there's certain subjects you'd like me to talk about, because like I say, I talk about what you guys want to know about, and everything today, for the most part, came from inquiries. So if you got a certain subject you want me to talk about, then send that in, and we'll kind of schedule that into one of the Cars and Coffee. I think one thing I missed on my notes is sometime in September we're going to have a mini workshop on brakes, which is something that is really important. And what I share on brakes, you're not going to find anyplace else. And it's going to be really informative and handy. We just had a 15-minute consult just this past week with someone that I forget what we're talking about, but he said it was a GT500. He could only asbestos pads were the only ones he could get, and he didn't like them that much. And I said, well, we got brake pads. G-Lock builds kind of special pads for us. And he said, well, I tried those pads and they were terrible. They didn't work. I said, well, which compound did you have? He said, well, I had 18s. I said, well, that's not the brake pad you needed. The 18s are for like super serious, full-on professional racing that have super high brake temperatures, because the heat range on that pad goes to 2,100 degrees. Okay, a Mustang will typically run around 1,200 degrees rotor temperature. And what was happening is the compound was so advanced that he couldn't get them hot enough to bed them in. So that's the first problem. And secondly, he couldn't get them hot enough to work within the range, and they just glazed over. So I mean, he's got. He bought some rotor temperature paint, and he's going to get back to me with the temperature his rotors are running at, and I'm going to pick a brake pad that puts that temperature right in the middle. That way you get the best braking capability and the longest longevity on both the rotors and pads. So because I got we cut it down. I think we're only down to eight different compounds now that we've got, depending on your application and what you're using it. So yeah, I mean, brakes are important. Getting the right brake pad is super important as well. Okay.
Okay, we're going to squeeze one more in under the wire. Rory, it's your lucky day. What is the benefit to moving the Fox K-frame 1 inch forward?
That's actually what we do with our K-member. It does a couple of things. First, it increases caster. And for those that have been with me for a while, know that I'm just absolutely crazy about caster and Mustangs. I want absolutely as much caster as you can get. So by stretching the wheelbase an inch, we actually, because the ball joint's moving out, the top of the strut leans back and adds more caster. Then we also, to augment that, we've got our Caster Plus camber plates that years ago we used to use caster camber adjustment, but all I ever did was adjust the camber or caster maximum. So by eliminating the caster adjustment and just putting caster at maximum, we picked up another half or more degree caster. So that's why we call them Caster Plus. And between that, I mean, it does so much for the car. I mean, adding more caster, it helps turn in. It actually has an impact on front anti-dive, but that's a very complex answer for that. And like I said, that's something we talked about in the academy when we go through suspension geometry. I think we spent 2 weeks on suspension geometry, but actually, caster actually helps anti-dive. So, and anyway, yeah, caster is an inch more caster. It helps the weight bias a little bit, but in these cars, I mean, they're so heavy and so gangly, that really isn't a huge improvement unless you're doing serious level racing. So, okay, I think that probably wraps us up then, Gary.
Yep, it sure does. And remember, if you're interested in attending the Kenny's Transform Your Driving Experience Workshop, you need to register online for it. And it starts August 23rd. It's 4 days and it's free and it's online. So it's a great way to hang out at night.
And also, if you want to register for the next sale webinar on the AGS 4.5 and my patent pending K-Link, I'm sure they'll put a link up there to register for that too. So
Okay.
do we know when we're doing that?
Yeah, and well, I was going to discuss this with you offline, but we bumped the brake workshop again.
Huh.
So we're planning on having this the K-Link workshop next month in September. Typically, we're going to start doing every third Wednesday of the month. We'll be doing a workshop. All workshops you have to register for, though, and you can find out about anything Kenny's doing on his Kenny Brown Speed Therapy Society group. And then the brake workshop will be the third weekend in October. So that's the schedule right now.
Yeah. What we're running into, we got too many things to do and not enough days or time to do them. So, okay. With that, I think we probably have no more questions. So we'll wrap up for today. I will see you all next week.
We have one more question. Oh, no, we don't. Never mind. We don't.
Okay. I'm not sure what we're talking about next week. Send me in some suggestions of what you want me to talk about, because right now we don't have anything scheduled. But we'll get questions. We'll figure it out by then. In the meantime, send something. If you want me to talk about something, send it in, and we'll try to get it scheduled. So with that, I guess anybody that's here from the Speed Therapy Academy, I will see you Tuesday night. We're into the final stages of the driving and car setup. And everybody else, I'll see you next Saturday. So have a good rest of your weekend, and we will see you next week.